A job too dangerous. The rain on Valkyra 4 wasn't like Earth's. It hissed as it fell, acidic enough to chew through unsealed armor. Captain Eli Mercer adjusted the seals on his helmet and scanned the ruins through his visor. Motion sensors pinged in the distance. Too slow for drones, too fast for wildlife. Trouble was coming. It always was. He hated this planet. Status? He asked, voice crackling through the comms. Still decoding the interface, replied a calm, melodic voice behind him. Sira, the alien girl. No, princess of the Yalari. Eli risked a glance at her. Tall and willowy, with bioluminescent markings pulsing across her skin in soft purples and blues, Sira didn't look like royalty. She looked like art, and she was kneeling before an ancient pedestal in the temple's core, fingertips dancing in the air above it, as if touching something only she could see. You sure this thing's going to tell us where the extraction point is? Eli asked. It will, she said, if we're not interrupted. As if summoned by her words, the sensor ping intensified. Eli cursed. For hostiles. No 6. Converging from the north. We got incoming. Fast. Gear up, princess. We're leaving. Sira rose slowly, reluctance in her motion. I need 2 more minutes. If I stop now, the location will fragment and be lost. Eli weighed the odds. His instinct screamed run, but something about the way she stood, unafraid, focused, made him pause. You've got one. He took cover at the doorway, pulse rifle ready. The temple's entrance was a narrow bottleneck, a small mercy. The attackers didn't bother with subtlety. They came in blaster hot, kicking up scorched dust and shouting in half a dozen languages. Mercenaries. Well armed. Not local trash. Eli opened fire. His shots dropped the first 2, but the rest fanned out, suppressing him with laser blasts that turned the stone walls molten. He ducked and rolled, returning fire, but they were too many. A plasma bolt clipped his shoulder, spinning him to the ground. He grunted and tried to rise, and then he saw her. Sira, still standing, hands over the pedestal, eyes shut in concentration. Another merc raised his rifle, aiming straight at her back. Eli didn't think. He moved. He lunged between them just as the bolt tore through the air. Pain exploded in his ribs. Another hit him in the thigh. He collapsed, a human shield made of blood and grit. The room pulsed with a sudden surge of energy. Sira's eyes flew open, lit now with an inner glow. She dropped to her knees beside him. Eli, he tried to speak, but only blood bubbled up. No, she whispered, placing her hands on his chest. No more death. A pulse of warmth spread from her touch. His pain dulled. Breathing steadied. Somewhere behind him, the pedestal began to hum, ancient symbols glowing to life. Outside, the merc shouted, then screamed. Something invisible blasted outward from the pedestal, flattening everything in its radius. When silence fell, Eli's eyes fluttered closed. He awoke to dim light and the sound of dripping water. Metal walls. A bunker of some kind. His body hurt, but less than it should have. His wounds were bandaged, and his ribs felt whole again. Sira sat beside him, still and silent. Her eyes met his. You shouldn't have done that, she said softly. You're welcome, he rasped, managing a ghost of a grin. She reached out, touching his forehead. The same warmth from before returned, gentler now. I shared the healing conduit with you. A forbidden act. My people may exile me for it. Eli blinked. Why risk that? She hesitated. Because you didn't hesitate. You saw me, not as an alien, not as a political tool, but as someone worth dying for. He tried to sit up. You still think I'm going to let you die? Not happening, princess. She smiled, faint but real. The beacon had activated. Reinforcements were on their way, but so were the mercs. More would come. Still, for the first time since this job started, Eli felt something strange, something unfamiliar in his line of work. Hope, the gift of the Yalari. The silence in the shelter was deep, like the world above had forgotten them. A dim bio-light glowed from the walls, casting soft purples and blues over the curved interior. No sharp corners, everything was smooth, organic. Alien. Eli sat on a low bench, flexing his shoulder. No pain, no scar, The wounds from the ambush were gone, as if they'd never happened. "What did you do that?" he asked. Sira stood across the chamber, her gaze fixed on the data shard, now floating above a pedestal. "A healing conduit. Yulari tech fused with our life force. It rewrites damaged cells, if used quickly enough. Only the High Line are allowed to wield it." He raised an eyebrow. "And your royalty? So you just broke your own people's law?" She nodded slowly. "Healing an outsider is forbidden. To use the conduit on you," her voice faltered. "I've made myself an outcast." Eli stared. "You didn't even know me." "No," she agreed, her tone even. "But I knew what you did. You shielded me with your body. No hesitation. No calculation. That kind of instinct, it matters." He didn't know what to say to that. He wasn't a hero. He was a guy who'd seen too much war and couldn't stand watching someone else die in front of him. Especially not her. "So what now?" he asked, changing the subject. "Beacons activated, yeah?" Sira turned, nodding. "Yes." The signal reached an orbiting Yulari patrol ship. "Extraction should be possible within 72 hours, if we survive that long." He frowned. "That's a big if. Those mercs didn't just stumble onto us. Someone's out to track her." She stepped to the center of the chamber, fingers weaving symbols in midair. A holographic map bloomed, layered topography, heat signatures, a pulsing red dot embedded in Eli's chest plate. "There," she said. "It's not your fault. They likely slipped a subdermal tag into your armor during a prior engagement. Passive until now." Eli cursed. "Sloppy. That's on me." "No," Sira said, walking over. "You're a soldier, not a machine. Mistakes happen. What matters is what you do next." He looked at her, really looked at her. She wasn't the delicate, ceremonial figure the mission dossier had painted. She had the look of someone who'd seen things crumble and chose to stand anyway. That kind of resolve was rare, even in humans. "Then what I do next," he said, standing, "is get us the hell out of this cave." Sira tilted her head. "You're still weak. You should rest. Rest doesn't stop bullets. I need to find somewhere defensible, somewhere we can dig in." "You said 72 hours. We need to make that time count." She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "There's an old mining outpost to the east, Bloodstone Ridge, abandoned for decades. Its natural formations offer protection, and its systems may still be partially functional. Sounds like a fortress waiting to happen." "It's dangerous," she warned. "The place is unstable, and it may already be occupied." Eli smirked. "Then we'll evict whoever's home." They left the shelter under cover of dusk, Eli wearing salvaged armor patched with Yulari biotech. Light, flexible, and warm with strange energy. Sira moved beside him, cloaked in a refractive field that bent light around her. The trek was long and tense. At one point, they crossed a burnt-out convoy, its metal carcass still smoldering. Eli crouched to inspect a scorch mark. Pulse detonation. This was recent. Sira knelt beside him. "They're hunting us." Eli nodded. "And getting closer." They moved faster. By the time the jagged peaks of Bloodstone Ridge appeared through the mist, Eli was limping again, the last of the conduits healing wearing thin. But the sight ahead gave him pause. The ridge wasn't just a scattering of rocks. It was a maze of canyons and tunnels, perfect for ambushes, but also for defense. "This could work," he muttered. Sira placed a hand on the stone and closed her eyes. "There's power here. Old Yulari tech. Buried. Forgotten." Eli raised an eyebrow. "Can you wake it up?" "Maybe. But it will take time. And the cost." She trailed off. He stepped closer. "You already paid a cost for me. Let's make it worth something." She met his gaze. "You don't even know what you're risking." "I never do," he replied. "That's the job." But this time it felt like something more. The stand at Bloodstone Ridge. Bloodstone Ridge looked like a graveyard carved by giants. Crimson rock twisted into jagged spires, wind howling through the narrow canyons like a warning. Eli Mercer liked it. It had the makings of a kill zone. He surveyed the terrain from a ridge ledge with a pair of old Yulari optics. Movement echoed in the valley beyond. Too distant to identify, but close enough to know they didn't have much time. "We'll hold here," he said. "Choke points, high ground, natural funnels. It's a defender's dream if we do it right." Sira nodded, her gaze drawn to a half-buried tower of alien design, dormant but intact. This outpost predates the human expansion. It may still hold a defense core. I'll try to activate it. Good. I'll fortify the entry path, Eli said. The mercs won't wait for an invitation. The next hours were spent in tense preparation. Eli rigged proximity mines using scavenge parts and old Yulari plasma cells. He set up a perimeter of motion-trigger defenses, augmented by a few of Sira's glowing stones that reacted to heat signatures. Primitive mix, but deadly. Inside the tower, Sira knelt in meditation, interfacing with the core systems. Alien glyphs floated in the air, rearranging as she sang softly in her language. Sweat beaded on her brow. "You all right?" Eli asked, stepping inside. She opened her eyes, glowing faintly. The core was dead. I've given it part of my life force to wake it. He frowned. "That's safe." "No," she said simply. "But necessary." Something flickered on the walls. Lights, ancient security systems, flickering to life after decades of silence. "You've got guts," Eli muttered, "for someone raised in peace." Her smile was tired. "I was raised in a palace, but I was never blind. I knew peace wouldn't last forever." Night fell hard on Bloodstone Ridge, the sky a velvet shroud pierced by stars and low-orbit craft. The first shots came with no warning, laser bolts slicing the air as a strike team crept through the ravine. Eli's mines lit the canyon in violent bursts. Screams followed. He fired from a ledge, picking off the survivors. Sira, shielded behind a refractive barrier, fed real-time data to his HUD. Enemy positions, weak points in their armor, predicted movement patterns. The Yulari interface hummed in his ear like a second heartbeat. But the mercs kept coming. Dozens. Then more. Eli dropped back, triggering another trap. This one collapsing a section of ridge onto advancing enemies. A moment's silence followed. Then the real force arrived. Drop pods screamed through the atmosphere and slammed into the valley. Black-armored elites emerged. More coordinated, faster, better armed. Eli ducked behind cover as plasma fire scorched the walls. "Sira, talk to me." "I'm in the core," she shouted from the tower. "Almost there. One more sequence, and I can activate the outer defenses, but I need a few more minutes." Eli gritted his teeth. No cover. No time. He bolted from the bunker and sprinted across open ground to buy her that time. A plasma bolt hit his side. He staggered. Another clipped his arm. He kept going. One of the mercs raised a high-yield pulse cannon, aiming for the tower. Eli didn't stop to think. He tackled the merc from the side, slamming him into a jagged rock. The cannon discharged harmlessly into the ground. But Eli didn't get up. Blood soaked his side. Sira emerged from the tower, eyes blazing with energy. Her markings pulsed rapidly, then surged outward in a wave of light. She floated above the battlefield, voice rising in a haunting, echoing cry. The alien defense corps responded, activating dormant towers, which released arcs of white energy that seared through the attackers with surgical precision. The remaining mercs fled, terrified. Sira lowered herself to the ground and ran to Eli. He was conscious, barely. "You did it," he rasped. "So did you." She placed her hands on his chest again. This time, the light came slower, more fragile. "You can't keep giving like this," he whispered. "I won't need to," she said, smiling faintly. "It's over. What was worth the risk?" The morning light over Bloodstone Ridge was quiet and gold, like the world itself was catching its breath. Eli Mercer sat on a crate near the edge of the plateau, shirt off, chest wrapped in clean bandages. The pain in his side had dulled to a manageable throb, a souvenir from the stand they'd made. The Yulari healing conduit had done its work again, enough to keep him on his feet, not enough to erase the cost. He watched the retrieval shuttle descend slowly from the clouds, its sleek silver frame glinting in the sunlight. For the first time in days, there were no threats on the horizon, no movement in the canyons, just silence, peace. Sira stood beside him, cloaked in a formal robe of white and violet, her bioluminescent markings now brighter, more vivid than before. A change had come over her. She no longer looked like a girl running from death. She looked like a leader, They'll be here in minutes, she said softly. Eli nodded. Still time to run. She laughed quietly. And where would we go? He grinned. I hear Mars is nice this time of year. Her expression softened. You joke, but you should know. After what happened, the Yulari Council won't easily forget what you did. Or what I did. Saving lives? Eli asked. Breaking sacred laws. Merging our tech with human biology. Sharing a conduit with an outsider. They'll want answers. Eli looked down at his bandaged side. You regret it? No, she said instantly. I'd do it again. He turned toward her. Then whatever they throw at us, we deal with it. Together. She met his gaze. Together? He hesitated for a moment. This wasn't like any mission he'd taken before. No contract. No paycheck. No fallback plan. But it felt right. Yeah, he said. Together. The shuttle landed with a graceful hiss, its landing gear touching down on the stone. The ramp extended, and a delegation of Yulari emerged, tall, elegant figures in silver robes, their faces marked with glowing filigree. One of them, a female elder, stepped forward. Sira of the High Line, she said, voice musical but cold. You have returned, and you have brought a human. Eli rose slowly. Name's Eli Mercer. You're welcome. The elder gave him a long, unreadable look. You risked your life to protect our future. That is not a thing we overlook lightly. Sira moved to stand between them. He is not merely a protector. He is a partner. I invoke the ancient bond, the right of shared purpose. The other Yulari gasped softly. Eli raised an eyebrow. That a problem? The elder's gaze flicked between them. It is unprecedented, but not forbidden. Sira reached back and took Eli's hand. My people will either change, or they will crumble. I choose change. After a long pause, the elder bowed her head slightly. Then let it be written. Eli blinked. That's it? No trial? No exile? The elder gave a faint smile. You faced exile the moment you stepped in front of a laser blast for someone not of your kind. The rest is just formality. Later, as the shuttle ascended, Eli stood at a viewport, watching Bloodstone Ridge vanish beneath the clouds. Sira joined him, her hand finding his without a word. You're really staying with them? He asked quietly. After everything? I'm not staying with them, she said. I'm staying with you. He chuckled. I'm not exactly royalty material. You're more than that, she said. You're proof that humanity isn't just muscle and metal. You chose to protect something fragile. You chose to care. Eli was quiet for a moment. So what now? What's next for the outcast princess and the tired merc? Sira turned to him, her smile soft. We rebuild. We lead. We remind the galaxy that peace isn't weakness. And if we must fight again, we fight together. As the stars welcomed them above the clouds, she asked one final question. Would you still take those blasts for me? Eli looked at her, then out into the stars. In a heat beat,